Welcome to episode 43 of the Brainstorm. We're talking Udio and Humane. Nick, you've made a number of AI meme songs already. What is Udio? Why is it making the rounds?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Udio is best described as an AI song creation platform. But I think more broadly, what we're seeing in the realm of digital content creation is this transition to generative AI helping and assisting creators, and the cost or, the time and allocation that creators typically would put into making a song or a video or any type of digital post is now collapsing to near zero, and the cost associated with it is also collapsing to zero. And so we think we're in kind of this revolutionary shift towards a zero cost content creation realm, which is very exciting times. Udio specifically just came out of stealth. They launched their beta program. Anyone can go to udio.com, that's spelled UDIO.com, and go and play around with the tool. It's as easy as writing in a simple prompt for whatever type of song you want. So you can type in a prompt. I want to hear a song about Sam and Nick doing the Brainstorm in the style of country, rock, rap, whatever you want, Nick, and you get pretty stellar results.
Nick, you should make one so that we can play it for.
Well, I will. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can do. I will make one, and we'll plug it in right here.
Yeah, tune in tight. So right.
We're diving where the thoughts are rushing us, chatting tech and dreams so wondrous. And nothing's stopping Sam and Nick, it's us. Oh, but this chat's adventurous.
Wow, what a song. What a song. That's the power. Again, that was a simple text prompt. We made it about the Brainstorm and the show we're doing, but anyone can do this again for anything they want. I mean, you can get as creative as your mind will allow. And, this is again, an area that had typically had barriers to entry. One, you need, expensive software to create music. And you also probably need a background in, music itself. You need to understand composition, lyrics, how this is all put together. But now you're allowing pretty much anyone with a thought of, what they want to hear to create that song in the style that, they're capable of creating, and Udio is capable of creating pretty much anything from as far as I can tell. So Nick, pretty exciting.
Maybe there's three, when you're talking, right, there's the three buckets. There's the entertainment cost decline side, which, you've discussed a lot. And I think this is that continuation. Then you have like the legal implications in copyright. And then three, I think you also just have the mind virus side of it, I'll say, where, already people have said, right, more academic papers using the word delve because AI generated content uses the word delve, and people doing this. But I think, similar to the concerns with TikTok and just influence, music is incredibly influential. Being able to do this definitely has a huge impact on I would say mind share and ability to control that or persuade in certain directions. So I'd be interested, maybe we'll touch copyright first. And then if we're all going to be singing AI bops about X political issue.
Yeah, I think the copyright portion of this is interesting. And one thing I'll note just at the top, Udio, if you were to say, create a song in the style of Beyonce or the Chainsmokers, it will not allow you to prompt in that manner. So it is trying to avoid copyright in that way. If you type in Beyonce or Chainsmokers, it'll actually go in, replace the word Beyonce or, the title of whoever you're trying to copy with music labels that are associated with that genre. So, for the Chainsmokers, it would be house. And it replaces that, so it avoids some of the copyright issues here. I'm not saying that, there won't potentially be issues in the future. The music industry is notoriously litigious. They will go after everyone for copyright issues because they want to bring in as much revenue as possible. And that is where I think you can make the argument that we're going to see a new market open up. So if you think about just the broader digital landscape, there are a lot of platforms today, social platforms particularly, that do not allow certain type of music because they don't have the rights to play that or to allow their users to play that. So, Twitch, you're not allowed to play certain artists' songs when you're streaming, or, TikTok had to go through taking almost their entire catalog of music off until they, struck a deal with Universal Music and Warner and all of these major players that own and operate the labels. I think what will happen is when you have music that theoretically can be generated in real time on the fly, one, music may penetrate new markets where previously it was too expensive from a legal standpoint to infringe on copyright. So you can have, essentially, the way that I think about it is, maybe more immersive elevator music being played, or allowing creators to say, hey, I want, this video to have this style of music. Please create something that matches what I'm trying to communicate within the video. So I think this opens up a new market.
Yeah. And maybe I'll use that to transition to the third point of, mind virus. What's another word for mind virus? Advertising.
Propaganda.
And I think propaganda, advertising. Right. And I think your point here is this transition. And you brought this up on Friday as well, which is, what if you're listening to the radio? Part of the reason the radio sucks is you have ads. Right. Lots of industry innovations trying to find business plans to avoid that. What if you're listening to a classic rock song and you don't really even realize the classic rock song ended, but all of a sudden, you're getting shilled Hot Pockets in a classic rock ballad, and using this as a programmatic way to keep someone from tuning out, but now they're being served an ad. So maybe you can dive into some of your thinking there.
Yeah, I will say I want to give credit to Andrew Kim because I think he was the first to bring up this concept of, pen or allowing music or embedding advertising into music. I mean, I think the traditional term for that is a jingle, right? You have jingles that are associated. I'm sure you're probably thinking of the one. There's so many that we have come to just accept.
What jingle were you thinking?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot. I'm trying to think of one. It's not coming.
Honestly,
to my head,
I just think of Hot Pockets, but then that's not really a jingle.
So I think you're going to see a lot more of that, right? And this is, I think maybe you can, pinpoint, if you want to pinpoint this moment in time, this could be the moment where music gets its memes. So the meme-ification of music, again, but it goes back to that high level point around the cost to create coming down, right? Previously, if you wanted to create a meme in music, it was probably just too expensive to do that, right? No one's going to take the time and effort to create a 30-second jingle for, a niche audience on social media. Now people absolutely will. Music is going to enter new markets because the cost to create it has now entered into an era that can only really be described with zero cost. Like there is nothing to creating music right now with Udio. There, you go in, you write a simple text prompt, and you can get something that it's hard to describe without hearing it. Hopefully we'll have, embedded the song we created for this and people will think it's interesting and fun. But I encourage everyone to go play around because you won't understand what we're talking about until you try it for yourself and you make a jingle about maybe something that happened to you last week or a friend that, something that happened in your life. And, you share it with friends and you kind of see the power that this has. I mean, Sam, we've been sharing some back and forth and it, just gives you a quick laugh and chuckle and you kind of move on. But, previously to have done that, it would have taken you weeks, especially if you weren't classically trained within kind of music and understanding of how to compose a song. Now you don't need to have that understanding. You just need to have an idea.
That's right. And shout out to Andrew as well, because he is classically trained as a violinist.
Right.
Now,
and I think he recognizes it.
Yeah. No, definitely.
But I mean, that does bring up an interesting point, right, Sam? Because I think you've heard some very influential people in the tech space saying, don't put your kid in a position to learn how to code anymore. That used to be kind of the language that everyone wanted to understand, is make sure your kid has a foundational understanding of computer science. I think that's still going to be the case. But, now we're entering into a realm where AI can code the majority of a program or a software application for you, and it's only probably going to get better. Is that same thing now going to happen with music? Are we going to lose that human element? I hope not. I think there is a certain human element to music, but I think we are heading to that paradigm shift within just digital content creation as a whole. Like we don't, typically make forecasts here in a way, but I think I could, I have pretty strong confidence that within the next 5 years, there will be an AI generated DJ or musician that is, very, very popular, talking about global hits. And the persona of the DJ or the musician is not real. It was generated by an AI, and all of the songs are, AI generated to a certain extent. And they will have this digital persona, and they will put on live shows. They will put on digital shows, and it will be a massive hit. And to think about that business model versus, the flip side, you're talking about a margin improvement story that we can't even really comprehend, right? The margins on this is, you're talking about probably 90% plus, because what are really your costs? The distribution. So you have to pay to kind of get out there in the beginning, but your creation costs are next to nothing if you're using certain tools.
Yeah, definitely get out there. If you're not throwing custom music themed parties already, you're about to. The other thing, this was on Friday, I was like, how are their lyrics so much better than what I get with OpenAI? And, we had some hypotheses. And then later in the day, it turned out, they're using OpenAI and obviously layering something on top of it. But OpenAI is a piece of this, which I also think is interesting. Their tentacles continue to reach. Nick, any other last words on Udio before we transition?
No, I think everyone should give it a shot and hear for themselves how incredible. I guess one last thought is, does this specific tool have value in the broader context of music and, the landscape today when you have streaming services like Spotify and Apple? I think that's a question we're still debating internally. One thing I would point out is just how fast the follow-on effects have been in just the AI tool creation space. Udio is not a new idea. There was actually a company that came out of stealth in December called Suno.ai. You can try their service out as well. But how often have we seen developments happening this fast with this much improvement? I wish we had metrics to compare the two, but I think everyone that's tried both will tell you Udio is way better. And that's a 4-month, time difference between, market or going to market for Suno and then Udio being live. And my question is, how do you build a moat in that space, especially when you have, so many different dynamics at play? But if you can't build a moat around a product because a competitor can come out in the next 2 weeks with something better, and you're always going to have to be iterating and improving, what exactly is going to force Sam and I to pick Udio versus the next best one? My theory, and I wish we had Andrew on because he has a different opinion here, is that we will see a bundling of these services. So you'll end up having a full suite of AI creation tools that doesn't just do it. It's not just music. It's music plus video plus photo plus text. And it will also probably be attached to some sort of distribution channel. So the Spotify's, the Apple Music, right? Exactly. CapCut and TikTok is a perfect example of, you have a massive distribution with TikTok. The pain points of creators and what they need. They need a better suite of creation and editing tools. Let's build that application for them and then tie it back directly into our distribution platform, which, further enhances the flywheel of content creation, but builds a very strong moat around creation and distribution. So I think Spotify, Apple Music, those are platforms that, one, are likely not going away, even though we're seeing this massive disruption in music creation, but also they are going to enter this space with either services of their own, or they'll, end up acquiring some of these and rolling it in-house. So that, I'll end on that. I thought I didn't have anything. I definitely did.
No, you sparked a lot of thoughts there, right? But it's like Captions, Canva, CapCut. Those are kind of those aggregators of video editing, content creation, bundling type services. But I don't want to keep, so much to say always, but we'll move on. Humane Pin, Marquez Brownlee with the review saying it's one of the worst items he's reviewed in a while for what it is right now. Obviously there is room for improvement. Nick, you've been talking a lot about AI wearables. What are your thoughts on it? Are you still wearing your Ray-Bans from Meta?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I wish we had an hour to go through this, but I will try to be brief here. I think the reviews are, probably very accurate about the product. I think there are just some hurdles when it comes to new form factors and when you're trying to transition users to a new input method. Primarily, this one is voice, and you have this kind of neat UI, UX where you can, show your hand to the pin, and it will overlay this, very basic screen on your hand, and you kind of move your hand in ways, and that will actually, become an input method for that digital screen that's overlaid on your hand. I think there are problems with the latency. So in his review, he talks about, the fact that when you ask a question, this all has to be routed to their cloud, and then the answer comes back, and it takes more time than it would if you just took your phone out and asked Google search. And just the non-privacy centric approach that they took, because all of this is essentially voice based. I think when we look at how AI wearables will shape or be a part of our future, our mobile computing future, I'm very much in the camp that the smartphone isn't going anywhere for two primary reasons. I think there's, we can get into a very long debate here, but two primary reasons. One, I just touched on, is privacy. You're always going to need a way to compute in a privacy centric approach. Text input is naturally more privacy centric than voice, right? You're not going to be in a crowded subway tapping your pin and asking questions about something you don't want strangers around you hearing about. So you're always going to need a text input to compute. You need privacy. The second is you will need a screen for screen-based entertainment. Unless something drastically changes within the consumer entertainment space, and for some reason we all decide we don't like watching short-form videos, we don't like posting and looking at photos of each other and what's happening in our lives, we're always going to need a screen. So when you combine privacy with digital entertainment and kind of the current status quo in both of those landscapes, the smartphone becomes a very powerful product. What I think will naturally happen here, and the reason I'm talking about this, because with the Humane AI pin, you have your own data plan. It's $24 a month, and the device itself can work without the phone. And there are a lot of companies building in the AI-enabled hardware space, trying to build outside of the mobile phone ecosystem. There are very good reasons why you would want to do that, but I think the technology and the transition they're trying to make is happening too fast, and it's still too early to push people away from their phones. There's just too much importance, and we rely on these devices for so many different things that, to me, it makes more sense to build within the ecosystem, get people and the attachment rate very high to the AI wearable, and then try to break out into a new space or try to break away from the ecosystem. Both have very serious challenges. I'm not, commenting on which is right. I think both of these strategies need to be tried, but to me, it makes the most sense to attach yourself within a mobile smartphone ecosystem to build off of one, that user base, but also because there are things you can do with your application and the phone that will also make your wearable more important to the user. So I think it's going to be a really interesting race here. I think we're seeing a lot of different approaches. Humane AI is, one pin. We've seen pendants. We're going to see probably watches. AirPods will probably have some functionality. I think we're going to enter into this AI wearable space because of how important it will be to the mobile computing future. One, because the data collection component of this is extremely important. Having that context and understanding of what a user is going through throughout their entire day will be extremely important as we enter the AI assistant era of mobile computing. As in, I ask my AI assistant to do X, Y, and Z, and it's able to execute those commands seamlessly. But it needs context to be able to understand that as well.
Right. And something you said, right? Nick's nice and fair and balanced. He'll hate on Apple 1 minute when he thinks it's justified, and then back at the other. Right? Is with this, Apple's distribution and the ecosystem they have. It's like there's all this innovation happening right now. They can wait and still be in a good spot.
That's my current view. Yes. To be fair and balanced, I think if Apple decides to license Google and what they're building with their large language model, or Baidu in China, I think that'll ultimately prove to be the wrong strategy. Can they do that? Decide in 2 years this was the wrong approach. They vertically integrate, build their own LLM, and then start integrating all of that into the wearables that they currently offer, and still be fine. Most likely, I think because the smartphone isn't going away anytime soon, Apple has a lot of leeway here to make mistakes, to iterate, to find the right approach. And, that is important to understand, because we're going to hear a lot of narrative around, smartphone is going to be displaced, and we're going to be in a hands-free computing era, maybe. And I actually am very optimistic that will end up being the case over the long term. But for the next decade, I would guess that we're still going to be carrying around smartphones, and even in a hands-free computing era, we're still probably going to have a phone as kind of a central hub to be able to navigate, to still be able to compute in a privacy-centric way. I just don't, and I can't imagine yet what device would come along that takes that away from us. And, the screen, you still will need it. We're always going to need those, unless AR, VR gets so good that we're wearing these devices. It's not coming out of our pocket yet. So the phone's going to stay.
That's
for
right.
a while.
You can rip the landline from Nick's dead hand.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's really interesting, though. I was surprised to see how strongly hated this device was. I'm curious to see when a few of us in the office get our Rabbit R1s, if we'll have a similar reaction. I've had and everyone knows this if you listen to this show, I've had a great experience with the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I think everything that's wrong with the Humane AI pin is what's right about the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I think they are a bit more privacy-centric because it's, putting the audio directly in your ear. It's not shouting it out loud. And there are use cases beyond or before you even get to the AI assistant portion of this that make it, worth buying, which is primarily the video capability that it has. So very interesting times. It's exciting.
All right. We'll catch everyone next week.